Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. And today I want to answer a question that I got in the comments before about my church setup on AUM. And today I want to feature a few plugins that I think most of you may be familiar with the sound, but you didn't know that you could get it in your iPad. Now I've seen a lot of videos offering sound packages or patch lists for some expensive keyboards. Some of your favorite YouTubers may offer a patch list or a setup or a performance setup for a montage, a motif, a phantom, or even that new V stage. There's even setups offered for that red board that everybody loves to talk about. And I want to show you how you can get access to those same sounds or something comparable to that in a much less expensive package. And again, we're using the iPad. And so for today, I'm going to feature a couple apps that I use. Actually, 3 apps that I use to make this work. One of those apps is going to be from a developer, none other than gospel musicians, and that is Jamal Hartwell and the Meticulous developer team. So you can find their apps on the App Store, and you simply have to search for the name Meticulous, and he has a whole host of apps there that will give you amazing sounds for no matter what type of music you're doing. You will find that these sounds are warm, well sampled, they mix really well, they are funky, they are edgy, they are smooth, they are all the things that they need to be used, whether in a main keys application or an aux keys application. You're going to find something for your needs. And the reason being is that, you know, the gospel sound has been so versatile over the years. It's included several genres like pop, rock, soul, reggae, Spanish music, salsa, merengue, Caribbean music, ska. It's incorporated all of those things. So that also includes a lot of the keyboards that were used and synths that were used to create those sounds, to become staples to those genres. So inside Gospel Musicians Library, you will find sample libraries for the Yamaha SY99, the famous Roland MKS, even the Yamaha EX5. You'll also find other SY models in there. You'll find some Moog models in there. You'll find some upright grands. You'll find all kinds of things. The Yamaha DX7 or an FM synthesis variation, several variations of that you will find in there. And so you can pick your palette and go to town with just one developer's plugins. So we're also going to talk about the Korg module, and I've mentioned that a few times on this channel. Korg has done an excellent job in bringing and porting over some of their legacy sounds over to the iPad, and we're going to look at the Korg Module Pro as well. All right, and I'm going to put together my church setup, and you'll recognize some of these sounds, and you're like, boy, I didn't know I could get that in the iPad. You certainly can. Let's take a look at what we have going on here in AUM. And I just want to preface everything by saying this. One of the apps I'm going to share is the Gospel Musicians MK Sensation Extreme. Now, the Extreme is the big brother to one of the early apps that was developed by gospel musicians called the MK Sensation. The Extreme takes it to another level where you can layer up your sounds, add up to 8 parts per patch, and create your own presets. You can also bring in other plugins into the MK Sensation Extreme, and it will host those plugins, assign effects and assign things to those plugins as they are all in the MK Sensation shell. They've done a great job of encoding all of that. It's a powerful app in and of itself. For today's use, I'm going to use that Swiss Army knife plugin inside another Swiss Army knife DAW. And the reason for that is when I load things up in AUM, there's some simple routing controls that I can do with my controllers. I can also sync backing tracks. I can bring in other things into AUM, and it gives me some more control on what I can do if I'm hosting the plugins inside of AUM. And I can use AUM as a mixer. I can also load up some other AUV3 plugins, effects plugins, to alter my sound. It just gives me a little bit more flexibility. But MK Sensation can absolutely host layers in and of itself, by itself. I just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. You're going to see me use it in AUM, and perhaps you'll understand why based on what I have set up here. Okay, so for today, I'm going to be using 3 standard controllers I've used quite a bit on this channel. I have here a Yamaha P105. This is a stage piano, one of my favorites. It has some great sounds, basic sounds in there. It's a stage piano, so no workstation layering here, but just an amazing keyboard that is my absolute favorite to play. Okay, and then of course we've got the M Audios, the Axiom 49s. We have that over here, and I'll show you how we can route a few things there as well. Okay, so let's take a look at our AUM setup for today. Okay, so in my screen, you can see I have multiple channels set up, and I have a different instance of the MK Sensation plugin loaded here on the screen. And then there is my Korg Module Pro sitting right there. And I've kind of labeled the tracks at the bottom simply by tapping on the bottom, pressing the compose icon to edit, and I can label my tracks as I would want. So if I was on main keys in church, this would be my setup. I would have, of course, have my piano. I would have a bass. I would have my MKS EP. This happens to be the chorus too. I have that set up also as a layer. Okay, a lot of gospel cats will do that. And then also I have strings and pads. Okay, so for gospel players, sometimes if we're using a board that has enough polyphony for us to do this, we go ahead and we layer up, and we want to create a thick sound because sometimes we don't always have an aux keys player playing with us. We are playing mains and aux and doing all the things sometimes on one board. So that's just the gospel culture. Of course, when you start gigging and you playing for other events, different types of events, a pop gig or a soul gig or a disco gig or whatever it may be, you got to play with a band. So you don't have to layer up a stick. But here in gospel, we go to town. So we got strings and pads separately. We've got bells. We've got a synth layer. And then I've got some leads going on here. Okay, so I'm going to patch a few things over to one of my smaller controllers. I think I'll put the leads and the bass over there. And then the rest of these layers, I'm going to run those off of my main digital piano here as the controller. All right, so let's solo a few things so you can hear what I have layered. All right, so let's open up the MK Sensation plugin. You can see there are 2 areas on the screen to load sounds. Up here you have a preset area, and here's where you can load presets. Okay, you either have some user saved presets or you can load up presets here that the developer has provided for us. And these are different variations of the MK Sensation EP2 chorus, that famous sound that's on so many pop records and gospel records. These are Jamal's versions of those that you can certainly load. Now, when you load presets, you will notice here that you have 8 parts. Each preset may layer up to 8 different parts on that one preset. So you can see right away how quickly you can load up your layers in order to get to that really thick sound. And that all can happen on one AUM channel, but internally it's on 8 separate channels, which correspond to these 8 faders right over here. Okay, and with each one there is amp control. You can of course adjust your DSLRs there, your attack, your holds, decays, sustains, releases. You can do all of that. You can control the pitch bend control. You can decide if you want this to be mono or poly. You can come in here, change your filter for effects. You can change the cutoff. You can adjust how dark the tone is, how bright it is. Also, you can adjust any LFOs that are on there, and of course, adjust the modulation on your mod wheel, how aggressive or how fast it is. All right, so excellent amount of controls here, and I've chosen a motif sounding piano that will that's sampled right out of the Yamaha motif or montage library, and it's the CXF3 Grand. That's that Yamaha sound. So you're gonna find that sound on a lot of gospel records from the early 2000s on, when the motif started gaining traction. Even today, they're still using some of these sounds. Now, the way this is loaded into the MK Sensation, you're going to get that raw sample. Notice here where I can actually make some changes to in the amp section. Notice this velocity curve that's right here. I've adjusted this to the playing action of my controller. So here you can adjust that velocity curve to where you can get harder strikes here. You can make it more of a right angle where you get those softer strikes all the way until you pound it, and then you get a harder velocity expression on the keyboard. But I like this regular curve right here. It kind of makes it kind of linear for my playing style on this piano, but you can customize it, and you wouldn't expect to see that level of control inside a plugin that is priced where it is. Okay, so but there's an amazing level of control right in this plugin. So some piano players playing the motif sound, they would adjust the release to where it's really quick. Okay, they like to create the illusion that they are playing really quickly. Okay, so they reduce that release sound to create that illusion. You can of course adjust that. Creates that tight sound. And of course the sample gives you enough to play with. I prefer something that sounds a little bit more natural. I think that's good. There's the motif sound. All right, let's go into the next level. We've got, I'm going to skip over the bass. Well, actually, we could talk about the bass a little bit. I have that ported over here. And again, if you want to assign it to your other controllers, you go ahead and tap the hamburger icon right next to the plugin and bring up your plugin. And you can see there is a blue diamond placed right there. And it's showing me exactly where my signal is. There we go, and it's already selected for me. So that's ready to go. Okay, that's nice and round. It should be fine for main keys split bass. I could split it onto the board if I wanted to kind of zone things, but I have it ported over to this other keyboard over here. All right, and then we can go ahead, let's bring in our MK Sensation, and I want you to hear how that sounds. We can open that up. A beautiful sample, just the way we're used to hearing it in gospel. That's the MKS, and that quality of sound right in the MK Sensation plugin. I love it. All right, so again, I have that loaded just as one sound. There are other amazing presets in here. He's got gospel stacks, tines and EP stacks. Everything that you would try to layer up or think of on your own to create that sound, it's already in there. Now, some of you watching, you say, oh yeah, I know the MK Sensation. I got that on my laptop. Now you can get it on your iPad, okay? And it's been available for some time, but a lot of cats have been sleeping on it, all right? So all of those sounds and setup presets are available right here, okay? Now we've got strings. Let's take a look at the strings that I have loaded. Yeah, let's do that. Enough said. That is just lush. And of course, if you wanted to add some release on that for a natural sounding string, there it is. Just increase your release with one touch, and it is already the patch you want. Okay, now let's say I wanted to adjust the cutoff. Let's darken that up a little bit. It's the patch you want. Now let's say I want to assign that to a control. Okay, we're going to go ahead and tap and hold that. We're going to learn that MIDI. There it is, assigned. We can assign that globally. All right, so now those strings are creeping in, getting brighter. And that's all assigned on a MIDI mapped control. I love that. Okay. The pads, same thing. You can assign the pads. Those pads can also be on a cutoff as well. Let's take a listen to the pads. Let's put this layer together and solo. balance it out. Okay, now I hear someone asking for some bells. And I have just a hint of the bells, but we can raise them up in volume just a little bit more. Okay, now what if we need to get a little bit more bright, more aggressive? Let's add the synths, okay? And again, for that, we're going right back to the MK Sensation. Here we go. There it is. Now you may ask me, what about polyphony? What about DSP? Okay, that's a wonderful question. All right, so in one of my early videos, I talked about this, how apps like the MK Sensation Extreme, where you can add multiple parts. If you're going to load presets, just know that you're adding multiple layers to that. In AUM here, I have limited it to one instrument per part. So I'm not looking to use up my DSP that way. I'm going to add another layer, maybe add another app, okay, into the mix in AUM. But let's take a listen to the polyphony. Okay, all of that took me up to 40%. The device I'm using is an older iPad Pro, 12.9 inch, and it's running an M1 processor. And in that moment, if I needed to church, check the DSP. Okay, it got up to 66 there, and that's with me going heavy. I think I topped it there at 65. But that type of playing happens in moments. Let's say I needed to roll the chords. There we are at 50. We're holding at 55. Okay. Now, that's a decent amount that's going on for your praise moments, for your churchy moments, for where the Holy Ghost is coming in to do his thing, right? But there's also another layer happening that's been muted this whole time, okay? And we talked about that red board. That red board that everybody loves, a lot of churches are paying thousands of dollars for to have in their church, only for musicians to only use the piano, maybe the Rhodes, and then here comes a laptop or an iPad to MIDI up to get the extra sounds they really want. And you would think, after spending so much money on that board, it should have every conceivable sound that's been known to man for you to pay that amount of money for that thing to sit on your stage. But most of y'all, and yes, I said it, most of y'all are only using 2-3 sounds that board allows you to load all at once. And then here you come with a laptop or with an iPad to fill out the rest. Well, what I just showed you was all iPad. No other hardware was involved except a MIDI signal from any controller that I choose. If I hooked up a Casio to this, it would sound exactly the same. The MIDI source doesn't matter. It's all about the layers that you set up within your iPad. Okay, so let's take a look at one of the boards, one of the apps that I think is a sleeper and could be a Nord killer. And I say could be, because the Nord is exceptionally good at what it does. See, I'll give it its flowers. The Nord is exceptionally good at what it does. But this is called Pianotech. And Pianotech is an app that's not based on samples. You're not triggering samples. This is based on audio modeling. So it is taking the raw sine waves, the raw sound waves to create a sound in and of itself. And this is what it sounds like. That's Pianotech. No samples. This is all an algorithm put together to sound like an amazing piano. Now, how many pianos do I have available here? I've got a ton. My license gives me access to 2 of these amazing instruments. This one is the New York Steinway D. And I'm also and I have all of the variations of the Steinway D in here. And then I'm going to pull up the MK2 Rhodes. Let's do a little playing with this. Let's see if we can add some chorus into the mix. Ooh, we're getting soulful now. We're getting soulful now. And let's add some tremolo. Oh yeah. And that's just two of the amazing instruments inside of Pianotech. And it's running on my iPad. Now, because it's audio modeling and we are not triggering samples, it's going to take up so much less space on the iPad. If you did not have another piano or another piano plugin, Pianotech is all you need. If you did not have another Rhodes plugin, Pianotech 8 is all you need. Let's take a listen to that Steinway one more time. Okay, there's the warm version of it. And I want to show you something else that your Redboard cannot do. Okay, this piano sounds like it is in pristine condition. I'm going to go ahead and go full screen so we can get a good look at this and take a look at some of the other features here. Right now we are in mint condition. But I want to play a piano that's had a little bit of age on it, and I want it to sound like it's had some time. Sounds a little older. Notice the hue on the screen changes a little bit. Oh, there's some age there. Wow. And just like that, we have aged our piano. Now, oh boy. Now, most of you may have an uncle or an aunt or a grandmother who has a piano that sounds exactly like that. And it's sitting in their front room or it's in their basement. It's in so much need of a tuning, of a tune-up, a service, or maybe even to throw it out. But there's so much happening right now in the world of lo-fi where that detuned sound, that old piano sound, has become even more popular. So you may want to preserve that. You may want to take full advantage of that. And you can age the piano from mint to worn. This piano is worn out. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. But there is value in creating a gospel record that sounds like it's on a and it has just a little bit of age to it. And imagine that in a mix with other instruments. It can add such a quality to your production. So to me, this is the sleeper app, Pianotech 8, that you can add to your setup. You can add that to your church setup and sound amazing. Sure, you can sound like the Motif. Sure, you can sound like the MKS. Or sure, you can sound like history. Okay? And you can do that all in your iPad. Pick it up, grab it, and go. All right? So this is what my setup currently looks like. And of course, I can save it. I can even record all of my tracks for church. And this is one of the advantages to AUM that I think has not been talked about quite enough. I've just armed all my tracks. And let's say we're having church and the worship segment is on fire. Okay, and you've been using your layers and you want to capture what you did. so that you can maybe go back and mix it down, or maybe use it as an overdub, right? You can actually record all your parts by arming your tracks, and all of the different channels will be recorded separately. So even though the front of house is getting 2 channels from you, left and right, and everything is stacked and layered, if you ever wanted to separate that out, make it wider, pan something here, pan something there, put it on its own separate track and mix it down, you can do that right in AUM. Just hit record, arm your tracks, hit record, and then hit stop. And there's all your stems for all of your patch layers. That is good to go and can be exported and dragged into any DAW. I think that's a beautiful thing. I think the V Stage has the ability to do that. That's something that just came out with the new Roland V Stage, but it's been in AUM, and these plugins have been on the market. So please don't feel the pressure to buy a package, a patch list for some expensive keyboard, for an expensive workstation where you have to spend upwards of $3,000 to get into that price point. Let's talk dollars and cents, shall we? This iPad runs at the time a little over $1,000. Okay, the iPad was not cheap at the time when I bought it. I did trade one in, so I got it a little bit over $1,000. But that gave me access to a DAW, some amazing apps at a much cheaper price. This keyboard controller that I'm using here, brand new, is $600. Bought it used for $400. Okay, these controllers right now you can probably get for $250 a piece. All right, all of that is less than one red board, and I have access to more than what the red board would ever offer me. Okay, now some of you may have questions about the control, about the quality control. What about the quality of the sounds? What about the outputs? Okay, I hear you. Those are valid concerns, particularly if your church records and you want to be able to preserve the fidelity of that recording. Use an audio interface. It's that simple. Just USB up an audio interface, get a nice clean sound going to your desk. Now, sometimes what I will do is you can add a limiter on any one of your tracks. Go into dynamics here, add a peak limiter, or use a plugin of any of your choice and add a peak limiter to make sure that your sound is never clipping when it goes to the desk. Okay, you can add some fine controls, make sure that your sound is as perfect as it can be on your end, and then you can allow the front of house to do what he or she is going to do on their end. Okay, so it gives you so much control and access to so much. So I hope that you guys can see the value in using your iPad for your church setup. Okay, if this has been helpful to you, I want you to go ahead and leave me a like. I would appreciate the subscription, and also leave me some comments. Some of you may have some questions, further questions about this AUM setup for church. All right, shout out to the creative community. Let's keep pushing this mobile platform to see how far we can go. Take care. We'll see you next time right here at Sell Joy.